The clock doesn't stop for you. Listen carefully. 2026 isn't going to pause because you're overwhelmed, exhausted, or paralyzed by fear. Every single moment you spend hesitating, someone else is transforming into the person you claimed you wanted to become. And if you continue treating this year like it's just another 365 days on the calendar, you'll eventually wake up with a sickening realization. You exchanged your entire potential for the temporary warmth of comfort. And comfort? It's the most addictive, expensive substance you'll ever encounter. So let this penetrate deep past your defenses, past your justifications, straight into that place where your excuses have made their home. The rescue that's never coming. Nobody is coming to save you, not because the world is cruel or because people don't care about you, but because that's simply not how life operates. From your very first breath, responsibility was silently transferred into your hands. Whether you acknowledge that responsibility or deny it determines absolutely everything that unfolds afterward. You've become far too comfortable with waiting for the perfect clarity, waiting for unshakable confidence, waiting for someone to believe in you strongly enough that you can finally believe in yourself. But here's the truth, that's simultaneously brutal and liberating. That help you're waiting for isn't en route. That rescue narrative you've been replaying in your mind doesn't exist. And every day you continue waiting, you're voluntarily surrendering more of your power. Growth ignites the precise moment you stop asking, "Who will save me?" and start declaring, "I will." That single shift right there is the razor-thin line separating people who endlessly discuss change from people who embody it. The contracts you sign daily, you must understand something fundamental. Every excuse you repeat is essentially a binding contract you're signing with mediocrity. Life doesn't reward good intentions or beautiful plans. It rewards ownership. You don't ascend because you want something better, you ascend because you've decided you're finished living beneath what you're capable of. The world owes you nothing. Not clarity before action. Not confidence before the first step. Confidence doesn't arrive first, action does. Strength gets forged under crushing pressure, never before it. And every single time you delay, hoping your circumstances will magically improve, you're actively training yourself to remain powerless. The strongest people you know aren't those with the fewest problems. They're the ones who stopped outsourcing responsibility for their existence. When you finally truly accept that nobody is coming, something remarkable happens. Fear loosens its stranglehold. Excuses lose their authority, and you climb into the driver's seat of your own destiny. The poison of false beliefs. Let's address something most people desperately avoid. You've been conditioned to believe that struggle indicates something's wrong. That if it's difficult, you must be on the incorrect path. That discomfort is your cue to stop immediately. That belief is poison running through your veins. Growth feels isolating. Ownership feels crushing. Responsibility feels overwhelming initially. But that exact weight is what constructs your strength. When you stop waiting for approval, you stop making yourself smaller. When you stop waiting for validation, you stop living at the mercy of others' opinions. Nobody coming means the end of excuses. It means no more blaming your past, your parents, your environment, your luck. It means recognizing that your future will be sculpted by the decisions you make when nobody's watching and nobody's applauding. The freedom and abandonment. Here's what changes everything. Once you accept that nobody is coming, you gain something most people never experience: freedom. Freedom from constant disappointment. Freedom from false hope. Freedom from dependency. You stop expecting people to show up in ways they never promised. You stop waiting for permission to live boldly. You stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand your vision. And instead of begging for doors to open, you start constructing your own. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need guarantees written in stone. You need courage. The courage to move without reassurance. To act without applause. To trust yourself enough to figure things out as you go. That level of independence is deeply uncomfortable, but it's powerful beyond any measure you can imagine. Understand this. The moment you stop waiting, time shifts from working against you to working for you. Every day you take ownership compounds. Small decisions stack like bricks. Discipline accumulates. Confidence grows quietly in the dark. But when you wait, time becomes your enemy. Regret grows like a tumor. Doubt multiplies exponentially. Opportunities expire with timestamps you'll never get back. Nobody is coming means you stop living reactively. You stop waking up hoping something will change, and start waking up knowing you will change something. That mindset transforms how you walk, how you speak, how you choose. You become intentional, focused, unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Why most never step into power? Most people never step into this level of responsibility because it terrifies them. If nobody is coming, then failure feels personal. Mistakes feel heavier. There's nowhere to hide, no one else to blame. But that's precisely why this truth creates leaders, builders, and survivors. When you stop expecting rescue, you stop fearing failure. You understand that falling is part of the process, not a verdict on your worth. You learn faster, you move smarter, you recover stronger, and eventually, you realize something extraordinary. The power you were waiting for was inside you the entire time. It just needed you to stop waiting and start claiming it. So hear this and carry it with you into 2026. Nobody is coming. And that is your greatest advantage. Because when you stop waiting for rescue, you become the force. You become the answer. You become the one who changes the direction of your life. And once you step into that truth, there is no going back. The decision that changes everything. At some point, you have to stop drifting. You have to stop letting life push you in whatever direction requires the least resistance, makes the most noise, or feels most convenient. Because whether you realize it or not, every single day you are becoming someone. The question isn't if you're changing. The question is, who are you changing into? If you don't choose that person intentionally, deliberately, consciously, life will choose for you. And life is ruthless in its selections. It will shape you based on survival, not purpose. Comfort, not greatness. Reaction, not intention. That's why so many people wake up years later confused, frustrated, and completely disconnected from who they thought they'd be. They didn't fail. They never decided. Decision is not a feeling. Decision is not a feeling. It's not motivation. It's not confidence. Decision is a line you draw in the sand and say, from this moment forward, I move differently. Most people wait until they feel ready. But readiness is a myth, a comfortable lie we tell ourselves. You don't wake up one day suddenly equipped to be disciplined, focused, or powerful. You decide first, and then you build the strength to match that decision through action. The moment you decide who you are, your behavior starts to realign. You stop negotiating with distractions. You stop tolerating environments that weaken you. You stop saying yes to things that pull you away from the future you're trying to create. Decision simplifies life because it removes the bait. The death of uncertainty. Here's the hard truth. Uncertainty feels safe, but it's slowly killing your potential. When you live undecided, you allow fear to masquerade as logic. You tell yourself you're keeping options open, but in reality, you're keeping yourself stuck. Indecision drains energy because your mind is constantly spinning, questioning, second-guessing. Powerful people conserve energy by committing. They don't waste mental space wondering who they are or what they stand for. They know. And because they know, they move with clarity. The moment you decide, your standards rise. And once standards rise, excuses lose their power. Identity drives everything. Deciding who you are means defining what you tolerate from yourself and from others. It means setting non-negotiables when no one else is enforcing them. It means you don't wait for external pressure to do what you already know must be done. When you decide you are disciplined, you don't ask if you feel like showing up. You show up because that's who you are now. When you decide you are focused, you stop entertaining distractions that used to feel harmless. Identity drives behavior. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. And standards are born from decision. The test of every decision. Life will test every decision you make. The moment you decide to live at a higher level, resistance shows up. Discomfort shows up. Doubt shows up. That doesn't mean your decision was wrong. It means it was real. Weak decisions collapse under pressure. Strong decisions deepen. This is where most people fold. They mistake difficulty for failure and retreat back into the familiar. But the ones who win understand this. Clarity is forged in action, not before it. You don't wait for certainty, you move and let certainty catch up. Every time you act in alignment with your decision, you reinforce it. Over time, that identity becomes unshakable. The alternative to decision. Understand this clearly. If you don't consciously decide who you are in 2026, you will spend the year reacting to people, to problems, to circumstances. You'll live in defense instead of offense. You'll let urgency replace purpose and busyness replace progress. But when you decide, everything changes. Your calendar changes, your conversations change, your habits change. You stop explaining yourself and start executing. You don't need everyone to understand your path, you just need to walk it. And once you do, the noise fades, the doubt weakens, and momentum takes over. So make the decision now, not later, not when you feel ready. Decide who you are before life decides for you. Decide your standards. Decide your direction. Decide your discipline. Because once you decide, Your life will have no choice but to follow. And 2026 will no longer control you. You will control who you become in it. Stop negotiating with weakness. You need to stop bargaining with the weakest version of yourself. That inner voice that keeps asking for delays, shortcuts, and comfort is not your friend, it's your resistance. Every time you tell yourself just this once, you are teaching your mind that discipline is optional. And once discipline becomes optional, progress disappears. The voice of weakness. Weakness doesn't attack you loudly. It negotiates. It sounds reasonable. It tells you you've had a long day, that you deserve a break, that tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow is built by what you do today, and the life you're living right now is proof of the deals you've been making with that voice for years. The dangerous part is that weakness doesn't feel like weakness in the moment. It feels like relief. It feels like rest. It feels like self-care. But there's a massive difference between recovery and avoidance. Recovery prepares you to go back into the fight stronger. Avoidance trains you to run. And the more you run, the harder it becomes to stand still and face yourself. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you reinforce the identity you're trying to escape. The truth about motivation. You don't need more motivation. You need to stop giving your weakness a seat at the table when decisions are being made. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You will never feel like doing the hard things consistently. Discipline is not built on desire, it's built on decision. The people you admire don't wake up every day energized and excited. They wake up committed. They understand that feelings change, moods shift, energy fluctuates, but standards remain. When you decide that certain actions happen no matter how you feel, you remove the daily debate that drains your willpower. You don't ask yourself if you're going to show up. You already decided. That's how momentum is created. The cycle that destroys trust. Negotiating with weakness keeps you trapped in cycle. You start strong, fall off, feel guilty, promise to restart, and repeat. That cycle destroys self-trust. And without self-trust, confidence collapses. You begin to doubt your own word. You stop believing yourself when you say you'll change. Breaking that cycle requires one powerful move. Doing what you said you would do, even when every part of you resists it. That single act rebuilds trust with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of every transformation. When you trust yourself, you move faster. You hesitate less. You recover quicker when you stumble. Your future self is watching. You have to understand that your future self is watching. Every choice you make, every skipped workout, every unfinished task, every excuse, they all send a message. Either you're building a future version of yourself that is strong and reliable, or one that is constantly disappointed. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. It's saying, I care enough about my life to do what needs to be done. Where real power is built. When you stop negotiating, clarity replaces chaos. You know exactly what needs to happen each day, and you execute without drama. This is where real power is built, in the moments no one sees. Early mornings, quiet nights, repetitive work, boring consistency. Weakness hates routine because routine exposes it. When you remove emotion from execution, weakness has nothing to argue with. You don't wait for the right mood, you move on schedule. You don't ask if it's worth it, you already decided it is. Over time, that consistency compounds into confidence, strength, and identity. You no longer try to be disciplined. You are disciplined. So, stop negotiating. Stop delaying. Stop asking your weakness for permission. The life you want is on the other side of the decisions you keep avoiding. Choose discipline. Choose action. Choose the version of yourself that doesn't flinch when it's hard. And once you do, 2026 will not break you. It will reveal who you truly are. Everything has a price. Everything in life sends you a bill. Nothing is free, not success, not comfort, not avoidance, not delay. You are paying right now, whether you realize it or not. The only difference is how and when. The illusion of avoiding pain. Most people deceive themselves into believing they're avoiding pain when they procrastinate, when they settle, when they take the easy road. But they're not avoiding pain, they're postponing it. And postponed pain always comes back with interest. The struggle you avoid today shows up later as regret, frustration, and the haunting question, what could have been? Life keeps receipts, and eventually, it collects. Two types of cost. The cost of discipline feels expensive in the moment. Early mornings, long nights, sacrifice, discomfort, isolation. These things demand effort up front. But the cost of neglect is far greater. Neglect costs you confidence. It costs you momentum. It costs you belief in yourself. When you don't invest in your growth, you slowly lose respect for yourself. And that loss shows up in every area of your life. You start settling for less because, deep down, you no longer trust yourself to rise higher. Paying the price now strengthens you. Paying it later weakens you. That's the trade most people don't think through. Permanent versus temporary pain. Here's the truth. Success is painful, but regret is permanent. Temporary discomfort builds character. Permanent regret erodes it. When you choose to push through resistance today, you are buying yourself freedom tomorrow. Freedom of choice, freedom of confidence, freedom of knowing you didn't waste your potential. But when you avoid the work, you're signing up for a lifetime of second-guessing yourself. You replay missed opportunities. You wonder who you could have been. That mental weight is heavier than any early morning or hard decision you'll ever face. Small deposits compound. You don't need to do everything at once, but you do need to pay something every day. Small deposits of effort compound, just like neglect does. One disciplined choice today makes the next one easier. One avoided responsibility today makes avoidance a habit. Life rewards consistency, not intensity. The people who look lucky are the ones who paid the price quietly when no one was watching. They endured boredom, rejection, and fatigue, while others chose comfort. And years later, the difference looks dramatic, but it was built one painful, purposeful choice at a time. Pain with direction versus pain without. Understand this. Pain with direction is growth. Pain without direction is suffering. When your sacrifice is tied to a vision, it fuels you instead of draining you. The grind has meaning, the struggle has purpose. But when you avoid effort, the pain you experience later has no upside. It doesn't make you stronger. It just reminds you that you didn't show up when it mattered. That's why so many people feel stuck and unfulfilled. They didn't choose pain intentionally, so life chose it for them randomly. The choice you must make. This is the moment where you decide what kind of pain you're willing to live with. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of growth or the pain of stagnation. One shapes you into something greater. The other slowly shrinks you. You don't get to avoid pain. You only get to choose which one you'll carry. And the earlier you choose, the lighter the load becomes. The longer you delay, the heavier it gets. So pay the price now. Pay it with effort, with focus, with sacrifice, and with courage. Because the cost of becoming who you're meant to be is always cheaper than the cost of staying where you are. Choose growth. Choose discipline. Choose the pain that builds you. And let 2026 be the year you finally invested in your future instead of borrowing from it. Your environment is everything. You need to understand this before anything else. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It rises when things are exciting and disappears when things get hard. If motivation were enough, everyone would be successful, healthy, disciplined, and fulfilled. But they're not. Why? Because motivation is internal, temporary, and emotional, while environment is external, constant, and powerful. The invisible hand. Your environment shapes your behavior far more than your intentions ever will. You can want success with all your heart, but if you stay in places that normalize laziness, distraction, and excuses, your desire will eventually lose. Environment is the invisible hand, guiding your decisions when you're tired, stressed, or unfocused. And most people never change their lives because they never change what surrounds them. Take a hard look at what you're exposed to every day. The conversations you hear, the people you spend time with, the content you consume, the habits that feel normal in your space. None of that is neutral. It's either pulling you forward or dragging you backward. Absorption is inevitable. If your environment celebrates comfort, mocks ambition, and avoids accountability, you will absorb that mindset no matter how strong you think you are. Willpower is finite. Environment is constant. That's why disciplined people don't rely on willpower. They design their surroundings to support the life they're trying to build. They make the right choice easier and the wrong choice harder. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. The cost of wrong people. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some of the people around you are costing you your future. Not because they're bad people, but because they're not aligned with where you're trying to go. If your goals threaten their comfort, they will discourage you. If your growth exposes their stagnation, they will minimize your ambition. Not always with words, sometimes with jokes, silence, or doubt. And if you're not careful, you'll shrink yourself to stay connected. You'll lower your standards to avoid standing out. That's how dreams die, quietly. Growth requires separation. Not arrogance, not resentment, just distance. You can love people without living like them. Structure creates discipline. Your environment is also your daily structure. Your room, Your phone, your schedule, your routines. Chaos breeds inconsistency. Clarity breeds discipline. When your space is cluttered, your mind follows. When your day has no structure, distractions take over. High performers don't leave their days open to chance. They plan, they organize, they remove friction. They create systems that carry them forward when motivation fades. That's how consistency is built, not through hype, but through design. You sink or rise. If you keep relying on motivation to save you, you will keep starting over. If you rely on environment, you will keep moving forward. Understand this clearly. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You sink to the level of your environment. If you're constantly surrounded by noise, drama, negativity, and low standards, it will wear you down. Slowly, quietly, until one day you wonder where your drive went. But when you place yourself in environments that demand more from you, where discipline is normal, growth is expected, and effort is respected, you rise naturally. You don't have to force it. You adapt upward. That's how humans are wired. The hard choice. The question is not whether environment influences you. The question is, are you brave enough to choose one that challenges you? Changing your environment might mean changing your routines. It might mean changing who has access to you. It might mean spending more time alone while you rebuild. It might mean being misunderstood for a season. That's the price of growth. But the alternative, staying where you are, surrounded by what's comfortable, costs you everything you could become. So choose your environment deliberately. Design it intentionally. Protect it fiercely. Because 2026 won't wait for you to feel ready. And the life you want is being built or destroyed right now by what surrounds you.